nuclear attack by North Korea against the United States, Russia would be making an incredibly serious mistake if we're to use a tactical nuclear weapon.
If Iran rejects the path of diplomacy, then, as President Biden has repeatedly made clear, all options are on the table to ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon.
The United States warning countries it considers competition or a threat against developing their nuclear arsenal isn't a new phenomenon. However, Washington has doubled down on its nuclear rhetoric as wars engulf the Middle East and Europe, while the Korean Peninsula seems to be inching closer to a full-blown conflict. China's bid to modernize its nuclear arsenal and its significant progress over the past few years is also seen as a threat by the US, even though Beijing has assured that it wouldn't use nuclear weapons against any country unless they are attacked first. While it warns a selected group of countries against nuclear weapons development, the US itself has been ramping up its nuclear arsenal. According to a recent report by the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, or ICAN pressure group, the United States is driving a global surge in spending on nuclear weapons. The report states that global spending on nukes jumped over $91 billion in 2023, with America alone spending over $51 billion in modernizing its nuclear arsenal. That's more money than all of the other nuclear nations spent last year combined. China is reported to be the second largest spender, with a budget of $11.9 billion. Russia is the third largest spender at $8.3 billion, followed by the UK at $8.1 billion and France at $6.1 billion. However, the estimates of three countries with undeclared nuclear programs, India, Pakistan and Israel, are all complicated due to lack of data availability. The report, titled Surge 2023 Global Nuclear Weapons Spending, shows a $10.7 billion increase in spending on nuclear weapons in 2023 compared to 2022, with the United States accounting for 80% of that increase. Over the past 5 years, since ICAN began its research, nuclear weapons spending has soared by 34%, or $23.2 billion. Spending by the US increased by 45% during that time, and by 43% in the UK, and on current trends will surpass $100 billion in 2024. The largest nuclear states continue to remain, as they have done since the 1950s, the US and Russia, both of which possess about 90% of all warheads. Russia has 4,380 nuclear warheads deployed or in storage, compared with the US on 3,708, as per data compiled by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. The same report said some 2,100 of the deployed warheads were kept in a state of high operational alert on ballistic missiles, and nearly all of them belong to Russia or the US. This, as transparency regarding nuclear forces has declined in both countries in the wake of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, and debates around nuclear sharing arrangements have increased in saliency. China, for the first time, is believed to have some warheads on high operational alert. Overall, the number of nuclear warheads has also seen a slight increase at 9,585, driven largely by China, which has increased its arsenal from 410 in 2022 to 500 in 2023. According to the think tank, India, Pakistan and North Korea are all pursuing the capability to deploy multiple warheads on ballistic missiles, something Russia, France, the UK, the US and more recently China already have. This, many fear, could be the beginning of a new nuclear arms race. As recently as June 17th, the US-led North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, announced that it is in talks to deploy more nuclear weapons, taking them out of storage and placing them on standby. NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg told Britain's Telegraph newspaper that there were live consultations between members to use transparency around its nuclear arsenal as a deterrent. He said, "I won't go into operational details about how many nuclear warheads should be operational and which should be stored, but we need to consult on these issues. That's exactly what we're doing. NATO's aim is, of course, a world without nuclear weapons, but as long as nuclear weapons exist, we will remain a nuclear alliance, because a world where Russia, China and North Korea have nuclear weapons, and NATO does not, is a more dangerous world. Russia responded to Stoltenberg's statement by warning that it sees it as an escalation.
А вот то, что сказал господин Столтенберг, явно не укладывается в контекст той же самой декларации, которая была принята накануне, которую подписали далеко не все, где как раз тоже, если я не ошибаюсь, говорится о недопустимости такой риторики. Это не что иное, как очередное нагнетание напряженности.
NATO's move came in the backdrop of Russian President Vladimir Putin repeatedly warning that Moscow could use nuclear weapons to defend itself in extreme circumstances. It accuses the US and its European allies of pushing the world to the brink of nuclear confrontation by giving Ukraine billions of dollars worth of weapons, some of which are being used against Russian territory.
Применение, неприменение, в каком случае применять. У нас есть ядерная доктрина, и там все написано. Я вот вчера только разговаривал с руководителями этих информационных агентств, я об этом сказал. У нас там все написано. Это применение возможно в исключительном случае, в случае угрозы суверенитету и территориальной целостности страны. В исключительных случаях. Я не считаю, что такой случай наступил. И нет такой необходимости. Но эта доктрина, это живой инструмент, и мы внимательно смотрим за тем, что происходит в мире, вокруг нас, и не исключаем внесение каких-то изменений в эту доктрину.
While violent conflicts are taking place in several parts of Africa, they don't seem to have inspired a nuclear arms race in the US, like the ongoing wars between Israel and Hamas, Russia and Ukraine, and the confrontations between North and South Korea. With tensions far from over and only seeming to be rising among warring parties, experts fear a further increase in the spending on nukes by Washington and other countries, creating a vicious cycle.